All right. Looks like I am live. Welcome to Success Mastermind for Friday, March 18th, 2022. John Lavenia here with you and Giovanna. Good to see you. And I have, wow. Well, you know what? It's Fun Friday. So I think I'm supposed to come up with a joke. I am wearing a tropical shirt, at least, right? Can you guys see that? That's my Cancun shark polo. I got that. Can you guess where I got that? Right, Cancun. So anyway, but good to see you all. You're not used to seeing me wear white. I almost never wear white, like ever. So, but good to be here. We've got a few more people tuning in. Good to see you all. Got a couple things going on today. We are. Let me first say we are not going to be having the Be Heard section session at 6 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. And that is something that will be back next week. I do have to take a week off on that. So let me make sure that's off the calendar. All right. Hopefully that worked. But I have availability for any of you who are partnering with me on various business things. We're in constant communication anyway. So let's be in communication. But what else? We had a great session yesterday with Adrian on life and business tools. So due diligence, considerations, things like that. A lot of times people talk about due diligence, which basically means I don't want to make a decision right now. I need to do my due diligence. But like for real due diligence, right? Like actually looking into doing research on, here's the opportunity that I could invest in or participate in to whatever degree. That's important stuff. That's important stuff. What I want to talk with you about today combines a bit of what Adrian was talking about, along with, like yesterday, we talked about we talked about having like an intuition, right, or a clairvoyance or a telepathy, right? So things that I think Deepak Chopra might call the law of least effort, right? Anybody ever read any of his stuff? The 7 spiritual laws of success, right? So one of those laws was the law of least effort. And so I want to offer you today some ideas on balancing the more cerebral or left brain, let's say, constructive, analytical kind of stuff, with more of the creative right brain, intuitive kind of stuff. Because I think we've all got both, right? I mean, is there anyone here who's 100% analytical? And on the other side, is there anyone here who's 100% just intuitive? All right. So I think you need both, right? At least that's what I think. Now I lean towards analytical, right? Nuts and bolts. Here's let's take this stuff apart, see why it works, why it won't work, right? How to break it, how to fix it, right? But that's a lot of that is just from my background, right? Looking at well, of course I used to, be in the technical trades, right? I was a diesel engineer. I know a lot about machinery, and that's very black and white. It's very objective. It's logical. It's analytical. It's machinery, and yet even with that, there are times where here comes the experienced diagnostician, and they can identify and diagnose and repair something in a fraction of the time of the person who's, let's say, fresh out of trade school or something, where they've learned the theories. They just haven't laid hands on machine 10,000 times. So they don't have those distinctions or those intuitions. Okay. So even in something as ostensibly, analytical as that, there's intuition. It almost reminds me, what it reminds me of? You guys ever seen the movie Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr. and Judd Law? What's his name? Right. And so there was this point, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, because I've quoted it to you guys a couple of times. The scene where Sherlock Holmes' character is sitting there, and he's bored, and he's trying to make a gun silencer, and it's not working, and he's sitting in the dark with all the cameras drawn, and Watson walks in, and opens the curtains and lets in the light, and he says, "Look, we've got to get you to work." right? And Sherlock Holmes says, yeah, I need problems, I need work, right? So the guy's sitting there basically twiddling his thumbs with no purpose, right? So here comes his friend Watson to give him some purpose. He said, look, here's the newspapers, here's all the scandals going on. And he just gives him like the headlines. He just gives him the headlines, and Sherlock says one of them was the missing necklace, or from the rich royalty or whatever, the missing necklace. And he said insurance fraud, such and such, the guy's name. He likes slow ponies and fast women. It's insurance fraud. So immediately he comes to a conclusion, and just based on who's involved, and like he knows lots of little nuances, little distinctions, so that, and there was no verifying whether or not he was right, but like the missing necklace, he's immediately going to insurance fraud from the guy who's claiming that it was stolen. Okay, so these are the kind of things we might just look at as assumptions, and assumptions are dangerous. Okay, first rule of business: assume nothing. Okay, but we can look at things that we've done in our own lives again and again, where we've experienced some of this, what Chopra would call the law of least effort, where we didn't have to force solutions or analyze thoroughly or things like that. We immediately knew. Moms, we've got moms here, right? You certainly have developed some intuition when it comes to your children's behavior or misbehavior, right? So how did that happen, right? It wasn't just because you sat around analyzing theory and spreadsheets or whatever. It was because you've got distinctions that other people who don't have that consistent exposure, right, that other people just don't have. How could they, right? Now here's where I'm going with this. A lot of times, let's say in business, we have people who consider that there are these special people on a pedestal, and they, I could never be as successful as them, right? And success just comes easy to them. But me, I'm struggling, right? I have hardship, and I'm trying really hard. And why am I not reaching those heights as quickly as I thought I should? Well, you know what? Every so-called overnight success isn't necessarily so. I remember growing up in New Jersey, there was this band that came out. It was an overnight success. It was a huge hit. Oh my goodness. Anyone ever heard of a band called Bon Jovi? You have. You see, fame and fortune. There you go, right? Well, turns out that overnight success took about 10 years to get going. All right. So we can easily compare our insides to other people's outsides and make assumptions. But what do we do when we do that? First of all, we're not truly being analytical. We're not looking at all the facts, because we don't have all the facts. But also, that's a self-deprecating act, right? Here I am comparing myself, and you're better than me, and on all the story that goes on with this, right? Now, on the other hand, there are things where I've become very intuitive, naturally, can do it in my sleep, don't even give it a second thought. And I've got to remember, here's the newcomer, here's the person who, they're just, they're interested and they want to learn, and they don't have these distinctions. And now I have to do what? Or I could choose to. I don't have to do anything, but I could choose to train and be patient, and while I expect very high levels of performance from myself, have realistic expectations of the newbie, right? The person who's just, figuring out, where the tools are. So there goes two ways with that. So here's the question then: with the things that you have intuitively, you've gotten to the point where you've got kind of a sixth sense, where you can have this law of least effort working for you, where you can do almost nothing and get the result. Do almost nothing and get the result, right? That's a magical place to be, right? And there are places in your life, there are areas of your life where you just know. Even down to like food, right? Anybody ever, you're craving a certain food, right? So like in this case, we could say your body knows that it needs protein or potassium or whatever. For some reason, I really want spinach, vitamin B, right? By the way, spinach is some of the best stuff in the world. Popeye was right. Eats me spinach. That's right. So so anyway, you've got these things now. Also, you've got these other things where you are, let's say, striving or have been. Um, I want you to take a just consider, because the thought precedes the demonstration. Just consider what it would be like for you to be in that sort of flow and that sort of least effort, that sort of ease and intuitive whatever, right? To be in that condition with this new area that you're endeavoring to be successful in. What would it feel like to be like that? I had a conversation, and I caught myself yesterday while I was having this conversation. I had a conversation with one of my mentors, who has become more successful than me in a couple areas. Okay, so I look to them for guidance and observations and perspectives that I can't see myself. And I caught myself saying, while I'm like a mindset guy and author and everything else, I'll tell you what, I think sometimes everything I touch turns to shit in this one area. So I'm observing that. I'm like, wow, all right, is that your affirmation, John? That's, yeah, okay. But I know that I don't know. I know that I don't know. This guy knows more than I do in this one area. There's other areas where I blow them away. Okay. So I'm not looking for like a modern day messiah or something or a guru. I'm looking for role models in different areas of my life, and seeking you shall find, right? I have found some. And some of you on here, right? I could counsel with you and get some great insights about things that I may not have considered. I mean, what's the whole point of a mastermind group? Right. So here I was masterminding with this guy and catching myself before it even came out of my mouth. It's like, wow. All right. So, and we were just looking at some of the actions I had taken in a certain area and how it was just crash and burn. So yeah. Even when you are intuitively successful, or what some people would call unconsciously competent, you're not thinking about it. You're just really good at it. Okay. So even when you're that in some areas, there's going to be other areas where, I mean, if you're willing to look, you kind of suck, right? So, okay, we can't be all things to all people all the time. And when we look at how we apply these recognitions, right, these observations, when we look at how we apply them into our life, the thing that has that I've gotten to fairly recently, the idea that I've been applying a bit more recently, is the idea of leveraging one's strengths and other people's strengths. There's a saying to develop your strengths, but manage your weaknesses. How do you manage your weaknesses? Because you have them, right? Well, you leverage the strengths of others. That's how leverage happens, right? So we don't all just want a mirror. Hey, let's pass around a mirror, everybody. We're all going to be clones or something. No, that would suck. And there's no leverage in that. While sometimes I think it would be terribly convenient for me to have 3 or 4 Johns, right? Duplicate my efforts. Okay, well, my efforts are really great in this area and that area, but I mean, are there not other posts that need to be manned? Of course there are. Of course there are. You can't be captain, first mate, deckhand, gunner, cook, engineer all at the same time. Well, all right then, you're hired. So that's what I've been looking at more as of late is what things that have cost me a lot of time and not produced a whole lot of fruitage, right? Well, here's some other people that I mean, they live for this stuff. Well, okay, have some money, go do it. Now, this is another thing to bring up though. Let's say you're a solopreneur. Let's say you're new in business and you have limited resources to put forth and to go do your bidding for you. That's the whole idea of money, is that you can exchange. In fact, you can provide service beyond your own physical presence. You can leverage effort through money, right? It's called hiring the guy who knows how to do the plumbing thing, and then he can come do the plumbing thing, which would take me all day. It would take him a half hour. Here's $100, done. All right, that's just one example. But let's say you're running on limited resources. Well, and that's where people sometimes get into like the grind of it. the grind. And if it's good and right for you to do, if it's a purposeful thing for you to do, these things that you're currently not that good at, well, then you're going to become competent to a degree, and to a degree where you can now know what works and what doesn't. And that when you do have resources to put towards leveraging, that you know what to look for. Right. So it's all valid. Even those learning experiences, even those things where we're not in the flow and the law of least effort and intuitive, whatever, right? It's still, wow, I get to observe terrible statistics. Look at that. How revealing. But no assumptions. Assumptions are costly. So with data, we don't have to assume anymore. With data, we can make due diligence type decisions. Okay. And with a supreme amount of data, good, workable, known, factual stuff, right? And then we can say, well, intuition. You guys ever hear, I don't know if anybody's into jazz music. I like jazz in addition to metal, but metal is my first love of my life. But jazz, right? There's something amazing about jazz musicians who can get together. They've never played together before. Okay. But, oh, you got the drums, you got the bass, you got the keyboards, right? Let's jam, right? And they just start playing something, and it's music. It's good. Just total improvisation. That's a level of mastery that, like, wow. So am I making a point, right? The new musician, you're like, well, hold on. How do I read the music? And wait, what key are we in now? What's that chord progression? It's analytical. It's constructive. It's not creative. So there's the line that we can cross. We can get into creative, right brain kind of things. In fact, I knew a jazz drummer back in Nashville, back in the late 80s. This was actually when I lived in Nashville. A lot of you don't know that. I lived in Nashville, Tennessee for a year when I was going to diesel college. That's how I became a diesel mechanic. I went to Nashville. But this guy, his name was Larry. He was a jazz drummer. And he said, the rhythm in jazz is not what you play, it's what you don't play. And I thought, man, that's heavy duty, bro. Wow. Right. I mean, I'm familiar with, rock, metal, right? Things which have like a 4/4 count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the rhythm, right? Well, with jazz, the rhythm is what you don't play. And maybe he was just bullshitting me. I don't know. But I mean, the guy was like a high level, jazz musician. So bringing this back home to things that we can, put to use right now. Take a look and acknowledge, because what we acknowledge, we get more of that, right? Take a look at acknowledge. What are you really good at? That you're just intuitive and you're in the flow, and like in a half a millisecond, you've got the answer, whereas other people might need to go take a college course or something. Okay, let's acknowledge that, right? And let's consider what it would be like, because again, what we consider, what we put our attention on, right? We get more of that. What would it be like to have that experience in this other area of life where you feel like you're new, or that you've struggled, or that it's been more effort than fruit? Well, that would be pretty good. You mean I could, let's say, for example, I'm just throwing this out there. Let's say, for example, I could call the customer on the phone, and I hardly said anything, and they just bought everything. Anybody had that experience? All the time, every day. That's me. Right? I don't sell everybody, okay, but that's my strong suit. Okay, so let's say a different area of life where you've got, there are people who have they're reading 15 different diet books to try to figure out what to eat. Okay, well, what if in that area you just intuitively knew what to eat, right? It's like, well, my body does well with this and with that. So just imagine. Yeah, we're going to use the imaging law now. Okay, so just image that in your mind, right? So if you've struggled with that sort of thing and have a lot of considerations and difficulties, right? Well, what would it be like to not have difficulty in that area? Picture some of the scenarios like that. You walk past the donut shop, Did you hear me? You walked past it. You didn't walk in. Why? You just intuitively know. Me personally, I don't walk past the donut shop. I walk into the donut shop. I get the bacon, egg, and cheese on everything bagel. Let me see what you got on the rack right there. And then, of course, I go, work out like a madman and do what I do. Although I'll be 52 this year, so I probably got to slow down on some of that donut action. The metabolism slows down a little bit. I'm good. I don't have a 6-pack. Got a 4-pack, not a 6-pack. So that's the kind of thing where I could do that. I can go right now into my image, and I could think, what's it feel like to just have a 6-pack? Because you intuitively know that deep fried carbohydrates and sugar and fat are not optimal for your body. What if you actually enjoyed just not eating that stuff? And it's not like I'm shoving donuts down my throat all day, but a couple times a week I'll hit the donut shop because it's expedient. You see, you walk in, they got the people cooking the stuff there, bacon, egg, and cheese, everything bagel. Yeah, what's that one on the shelf? Oh, Boston cream. Oh. And I typically only eat half of it. I'll share it with my daughter. She'll eat like 3 donuts. And I'm like, whoa, slow down there, cowgirl. Here, have half a donut and then, whatever. So, get the donut holes, Lindsay says. Get the donut holes. Lindsay, everybody, why don't you guys come out here? It's a very intimate crowd here today. But the topic is essentially being more intuitive and balancing that with your analytical efforts. Okay. And is there an area that you'd like to be more intuitive in? And by the way, one of the ways to amass the data to the point where you're a master is to get around other people who've mastered in that area. I have mentors. You should too. Okay. And I'm not your mentor when it comes to whether or not you should eat donuts. Okay. Anybody got some thoughts on this? I'd love to hear a couple ideas. Hey, Lindsay, you've got the floor.
Well, I do go for the donut holes, but I don't need a mentor to tell me. I'll go work out enough that I can eat the donut holes. I'm disciplined enough to do that. But intuitively versus, I find that when I just go for something with I have to have no attachment to it though. If I go in and not like rat looking for cheese, but if I try to just perfect something, it's just, I just need to depend on myself and the knowledge that I have, and it works out a lot more in my favor when I do that, and with least effort.
Right. Okay. So is there like one area of your life that you could acknowledge and celebrate that things just work out for you?
I'm sure. Well, you put me on the spot. I'm sure there is.
Okay. Well, I know of one right now. And again, this is going back into your history just because I know you personally.
Right.
You were a master, at least in my perspective, a master gymnast.
Mm.
So in that, and you may not be doing competitive, teenager cheer or gymnastics right now. Okay. But when you were, okay, you experienced a level of mastery. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any videos of Lindsay and doing gymnastic stuff, but like flying aerial backflips and shit, like what, right? So like, whoa. I've not mastered that, nor will I ever, at least not in this body. So
well, it's hard to hear when people say, well, you can't, they tried that when I turned 30. You can't. I was like, you want to bet? Dare me. So I could still at 30, but I'm getting closer to 40 now. I may bust my ass, but I'm still gonna, I can still tumble. I'm not a master by any means. But
no, but recognizing that you had that experience.
Yes, I was very proud of and I didn't think about it. I just did it.
Right.
Don't think about it. If you think about that, you're gonna really mess up.
Exactly. So check it out. Lindsay did enough repetitions that she developed mastery, and it was no longer a conscious competence. Mm-hmm. It was unconscious. I think, Lindsay, you and I talked once about shooting, right? So here's the master, shooter, and I was talking to one of these guys, and I know a bunch of them, and I'm pretty good, but these guys are whoa, right? And so I was talking to him about, do you focus more on the trigger press or the sight alignment, and he's like, I just see where the hole's going to go, and that's where it goes. That fast, intuitively, right? Now, don't ask them about their ammo bill. It's high, okay? It's high, millions of rounds downrange. But in that sport, right? I mean, I had the same kind of experience with golf, right? Which I quickly abandoned. But here's the golf teacher. He's a professional. In fact, his name was Chip. Like that was his name. He jokingly said his brother's name is Putt. But anyway, Chip could put down a ball and hit it perfectly every time. Which club? The 5-iron. Okay, great. Here's the 5-iron. Here's how you do it, right? Perfect 5-iron, directly where he wants the ball. And I'd pick up the 5-iron, and it was crap. Slice, hook, miss, right? And I said, how do you do that? He said, well, I've hit millions of golf balls. So he doesn't have to think about moving his left knee before you shift the hips. I mean, really, this is the level of stuff. You got to move the knee before the hips. Did you guys know that? Any golfers here? You knew that. Okay.
I didn't. I struck out at golf. After we from iron, I'm like, forget this. I don't like it.
Right. Right. So anyway, Lindsay, thank you. And I hold you in high esteem. And but yeah, here's the gymnastics thing. Clearly, you can master stuff. You can. And what does it feel like when you do? Well, here's the backflip or the aerial, whatever it's called, right? Fine, whatever, right? And you just do it. And so you can deliberately get to that point with other areas of interest, because interest renders aptitude. If we want to experience this intuitive, this flow, this law of least effort, then yes, go through the other principle-based, the practices, like Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich. The 13th principle is the sixth sense, which you only develop once you've developed the other 12, right? So if we're looking in amazement at other people and what they've been able to accomplish in whatever area of life that you think is spectacular, just understand that it wasn't necessarily an overnight success. The book that we're reading right now, Pitch Anything, Oren Klaff, 10,000 hours he put into studying these and codifying and putting it into his strong acronym, right? With the different, here's the framing and the prizing and all this. So that is not, he wasn't like born into doing that. What are we born into, guys? We're born into, crying for milk, fear of falling, and loud noises, right? That's what we're born into. That's it. You've mastered that right out of the womb. That's great. There's a bigger game afoot, in case you haven't noticed, okay? So it's not just about crying for milk and avoiding falling and loud noises. Thank you again, Lindsay.
Thanks, John.
Catherine, Daisy, Giovanna, any other thoughts on this? Coming up to the bottom of the hour already. Wow, look at that.
Do you remember Chevy Chase's character in Caddyshack?
Oh yeah, right. Classic.
You're talking about. I was just thinking, like I'm a really good cook, and nice if that intuitive confidence could be in all my endeavors.
Right.
Yeah, I get that. So I'll think about that.
Giovanna, I got to come visit. You're a good cook. And of course you are, right? But think about that right there. So when Giovanna enters the kitchen, there's no, oh, I hope I get this right. I'm not sure if it's gonna work, right? There's none of that. It's just, bam, here it is. I was just thinking of Gordon Ramsay, right? Probably everybody knows who that is, right? One of the most famous chefs in the world, 16 Michelin stars, and probably has more than that by now. Who knows, right? but he hosted the or still does, I guess, if it's still going, the Master Chef TV show, and another one called Hell's Kitchen. But the thing with Gordon Ramsay is he's teaching, the subordinates, right, the students, or in this case the contestants, for the, it's a competition, and he's teaching them how to do his recipe. Let's say for the beef Wellington, right? It's one of his signature dishes, and he's showing them how to do it, and he's doing it so fast, and he's explaining what he's doing. But I noticed even with that, he'll say, and just 2 pinches of seasoning, and he'll throw some salt at it, like aerially. Salt is flying through the air. Well, how much salt was that? Right? So do you have that experience, Giovanna, where it's a pinch of seasoning?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I remember like growing up, my grandfather trying to get a recipe out of him, and I'd ask how much sugar for this, and he'd say half an eggshell. I don't know.
Yeah. Half an eggshell. Oh, that's great. But that's unconscious competence, right? You just know that needs salt, that needs sugar, right? Put some more acid on that. Get some lemon juice. Yeah. Thank you, Giovanna. Great stuff. One of my favorite children's movies is Ratatouille. Anybody ever seen that? Ratatouille. About the rat who wasn't just looking for cheese, Lindsay. The rat was a chef, wanted to be a great chef. Anybody who's not seen that movie, it's good for adults too. Some of the characters in there, the rat, Remy the rat, he was great. The kid, Luigi, he was great. Gusteau, the dead chef, right? He was great. But there was this other one, Anton Ego, was the food critic. Not a nice guy, right? And the way they portrayed this, I saw in that movie, I saw a lot of the things that not only children but adults will confront as we go through life, and looking to make our mark, right? Here was this rat and the kid Luigi, right? Who, or Linguini was his name. I'm sorry, Linguini, looking to make their mark in the culinary world. And they were met with opposition, criticism, and of course, I mean, a rat, I mean, we kill rats, right? The rats don't belong in the kitchen, right? We call the health department. So anyway, if you haven't seen Ratatouille, I highly recommend it. Of course, I know all these children's movies because I've got a child, right? She'll be 12 this year, and so I think I'm coming towards the end of my collecting of children's DVDs and stuff. But yeah, that one definitely had a message. That was good. I would put that right up with The Incredibles. That definitely had a message for grown-ups. The Incredibles. Talk about denying your own power, withholding, suppressing your own power. Very interesting movie. Anyway, I don't mean to psychoanalyze children's movies, but compared to most of the crap that's out there in theaters, yeah, it's worth watching. Any other thoughts? We haven't heard from Gail or Daisy. I'm sorry, Daisy or Catherine. For some reason, I thought Gail was here. Gail's not here. Any other thoughts on this? Least effort? Daisy.
I really don't have anything to do. I mean, with Giovanna being a cook and Lindsay being a gymnast, I guess my thing would be learning to drive manual.
Are you?
That was something I had to learn. That was the only car that we had, and I had to learn it. And now it's amazing that you don't even think about it. Going up a hill, downshifting, right, in traffic here in LA, that it's just intuitive, that it just all works. I mean, it's amazing how, and I was just thinking about that the other day sitting in traffic, that you have all, you're using all your limbs, your hands, your feet. Yeah. So that's.
You still drive manual?
Yes. We have a manual car.
What kind of car?
It's a Lexus. An old beat up Lexus. It's Dale's car.
Lexus has I didn't know they ever made a manual shift
Yeah,
Lexus.
the IS 300, the earlier ones. Yes.
Oh, the IS. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that's so that's kind of a sporty, manual shift experience.
I love driving it. Now that I have the RAV, I don't have to worry about that. But when I do have to drive the car, and it's really nice driving that car on a nice smooth surface, and so but intuitively, that's the only thing I can think of in terms of experience, of not thinking about everything, that just comes naturally without having to worry. Because I remember learning it. Wow, I was always so obviously afraid of stalling out, steep hills with inclines, and or
how much clutch to let out, or finding the gear.
You don't want, and being yelled at saying you're riding the clutch. So knowing when that all happens, right? When the gear shifts and with the clutch together at the same time, without jerking, your passenger ahead or anything like that. Sure. But
so that worked, right? And how many times has your left foot pressed a clutch pedal? Thousands and thousands.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So it's intuitive. You know exactly where the friction zone is on that clutch, right? That much. I mean, little millimeters of difference.
Yes.
Right. So same on the bike. I don't drive a manual shift car, but motorcycle is clutch and a manual transmission. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's the same principles. And there you go. So Daisy, good times.
That is fun. But when you try teaching a 15-year-old how to drive a man, I was like, oh, my dad was a much better teacher than I was. But one thing I do want to know is, okay, in England, you drive on the other side, but is the pedals on the other side? I wondered that. Okay, no. I was thinking, because I would be like,
it's the same. It's just
okay. I didn't know. I just wondered,
shifting with your left hand. That's the
that would be.
Yeah, it's really hard. I've tried it. I tried driving automatic in England. I mean, in Australia, and oh my God, it's so hard because you're just driving on the left side. It is so hard, and they have so many turnabouts. Yeah. That you don't know which way. Oh, it's really stressful. So yeah, that's another thing. You have to drive intuitively there.
That's great. I drove manual shift in Australia as well, in a camper van, and it was the first time ever driving on the wrong side of the road, and sitting on the wrong side of the car. But yes, Lindsay, it was left foot clutch, right foot accelerator and brake. So thank God. Thank God for that.
Right. I wondered that, and I thought I'd really. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. Good times. Hey, Catherine.
Hey. I just had something on the Be Heard. Since you said you weren't doing that tonight, can we do something on scheduling maybe in the next week or so?
Scheduling?
Yeah. That's been a really difficult
about
thing.
Scheduling, you mean, or put something on the schedule?
Just on how to kind of instill schedules. I've been homeschooling, and I've been kind of the go-to for everybody else for everything for years. Mm-hmm. So trying to instill schedules when everybody's like, oh, come do this, call, and they want you to do everything, and they're always dragging you away. So I was just wondering if there's something we could do on that, on how to instill schedules other than threatening to shoot them if they walk in the door.
Right. Yeah, there is something we could do about that. Okay. In fact, we've covered that. We can go into the archive, but why don't we take that up again on Monday?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to do. So thank you, Catherine. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and wrap with that. Thank you for your participation. Of course, if you're seeing this on YouTube, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back here on Monday with more thrills and excitement. We'll be talking about scheduling, says Catherine. You see, that's Catherine's will be done. So there we go. You guys have a great weekend. All right.